Good evening, Mayor, council members, Captain of the Police Department, Tom Floring. I have with me Detective Adam Elledge, who is also a range master for the department. Assembly Bill 481 requires law enforcement agencies to obtain approval from the applicable governing body via adoption of a military equipment use policy by ordinance prior to the agency funding, acquiring, or using military equipment.
We will now move on to agenda item 13C. Annual Military Equipment Report from Ukiah Police Department in compliance with California Assembly Bill number 481. Our presenter is our Ukiah Police Department Captain, Tom Corney.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Captain of the Police Department, Tom Floring. I have with me Detective Adam Elledge, who is also a range master for the department. Assembly Bill 481 requires law enforcement agencies to obtain approval from the applicable governing body via adoption of a military equipment use policy by ordinance prior to the agency funding, acquiring, or using military equipment. Council adopted ordinance 1229 approving Ukiah Police Department's policy 708, the military equipment use policy, on March 15th of last year. Per Government Code Section 7072, a law enforcement agency that receives approval for a military equipment use policy shall submit to the governing body an annual military equipment report. The annual military equipment report shall include the following information: a summary of how the military equipment was used, a summary of any complaints received concerning the military equipment, any information about violations of the military equipment use policy, the total annual cost for each type of military equipment in use, the quantity possessed of each type of equipment, and if the law enforcement agency intends to acquire additional military equipment in the next year. So we currently have 5 types of items in our military equipment inventory, and I will go over all 5 with you. The first one we have is a Glock 17 training pistol, and it's 9mm ammunition. We currently have 10 of these pistols in our inventory and a little less than 4,000 rounds of the ammunition that goes with them. The price of these pistols is 500 rounds per pistol, and the ammunition is 69 cents a round. I don't remember if you remember when I explained it last year, these are a training handgun that shoots a paintball that we use for training. In the last year, we did use them for an active shooter training. And we used approximately 300 rounds of the paintball 9mm ammunition. The next item on the inventory, we have Simunition 5.56 FX marking cartridges. This is also a paintball ammunition that is fired from our rifles. We currently have 2,000 rounds of this ammunition, and the rounds are 73 cents a round. These are also used during active shooter trainings to simulate tactical situations. And in the last year, we have used 500 rounds of that type of ammunition. The next item we have is it doesn't belong to the Ukiah Police Department. It actually belongs to the Public Works Department, and is a DJI Mavic Pro unmanned aircraft system. It's a remote controlled quadcopter. They have one of these in their possession. The initial cost for that item was $900. This item was not used by the Ukiah Police Department in the last year, and we put it on the military equipment inventory list in case of emergency, and we did want to use this item, we would still be in compliance with the policy. The next item also does not belong to the Ukiah Police Department. It is a City of Ukiah Electric Utility Department item. It is also a DJI Matrix 300 RTK unmanned aircraft system with a ZenMoose H20T camera. They have one of those in their possession. The initial cost for this was $23,867. And again, in last year, the Ukiah Police Department has not used this item. It doesn't belong to the police department, but again, in case of emergency and we needed to use it, we wanted to be in compliance with the policy, so we added it to the military equipment inventory. The last item that is currently in the military equipment inventory, we have 2 Ukiah Police Department DJI Mavic 3T unmanned aircraft systems. They're remote controlled quadcopters. We have 2 of these. The initial costs for these were $11,040 per device, and that included the device, the controllers, the batteries, and the software. The Ukiah Police Department has used these items several times in the last year to provide aerial perspective to law enforcement officers. These devices assisted officers searching for fleeing suspects, taking forensic photographs, search and rescue operations. They could be used for fires, residential or wildfires to assist with those. That's all the items that we currently have in the military equipment inventory. The Ukiah Police Department has received no complaints concerning military equipment use in the last year. There were no known violations of the military equipment policy within the last year. In the next year, we do intend on purchasing several items and adding them to the list. The first one would be we want to acquire additional paint ammunition for the rifle and the handguns that I spoke about a minute ago, just to replenish the ammunition that we've used in the last year during our training exercises. Also in the next year, the Ukiah Police Department intends to acquire kinetic, less lethal tools, specifically 12-gauge beanbag impact rounds and pepper ball guns. These impact rounds provide officers with the ability to incapacitate or deter individuals without causing fatal injuries to them. In scenarios where officers would typically use lethal firearms, such as responding to armed individuals, less lethal options can offer an alternative that minimizes the risk of fatal injuries. And that concludes this year's annual military equipment report.
There were any question from any council member? Go ahead, please.
Thank you for that report. I see in the materials that the department is required to do a drill.
And I'm wondering if that happened, and if so, was there much participation or interest from the public?
Yes, I believe the first one we have to announce, which we did on our webpage 30 days in advance. This one I don't believe we have to announce this one, but I believe these count as the public.
Oh, this is the public meeting.
This is it.
Oh,
We're
okay.
here.
I see there's a lot of interest.
I'm glad you made it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, there is a public comment online. Erin Ray, go ahead.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much for taking my comment. I'm glad that you asked about the public comment because in the accountability processes, it should be well publicized. That's actually one of my 6 questions that are pretty quick. My questions being, when will this well publicized community engagement meeting happen? Because that is clearly laid out in the accountability practices. And how are you going to publicize it? I know that UPD posts on Facebook. That might be a good idea. How can civilians lodge a complaint? Where can we go to do this? You mentioned that there were no public complaints, but I don't think anybody even knows this is happening. The drones that you listed on the inventory sheet, I had a question about where the funding is coming from for all of these, if it's coming from the police budget, if it's coming from the general fund, if it's coming from City Works or electricity department. I'd like to know who the military equipment coordinator is, and how much money has been spent on de-escalation training that does not include things like pepper bullets and or less than lethal, because they are sometimes lethal, these bean bags. The damage that they're inflicting on people can be lethal when used improperly.
Want to respond, or we just, please go ahead, Saik.
Yeah, no, we could provide a response to the questions now that the comments have been made. So I'll go ahead and let the department take those.
Yeah. So as far as I believe the 30-day notice that is required was for the initial ordinance, and I don't believe that there was a a 30-day requirement on the annual military equipment report. I don't remember the next question. There's a lot of questions. I am the military equipment coordinator. I know that.
I can remind you of the other questions if you'd like.
If we do them one at a time, that'd probably be pretty cool.
Sure. When is the well publicized meeting? So you're saying you don't think that it is every year because you're asking for more weapons. So it seems it would require more discussion and feedback on these. This is to kind of increase a positive relationship and foster trust between the police and the community. And I think that would really go a long way in doing that, especially if you can put it on something like Facebook to alert people that this is happening and invite discussion. There wouldn't be any kind of accusations of undercover militarization of the police here in Ukiah.
Yeah, well,
And the other,
I believe that
sorry.
the whole purpose of this is for us to acquiring it is like the council has to approve it. We can't just go out and buy anything that we want that is deemed military equipment by this law.
Yeah, 7070 was written, it's California code to hold police accountable for while they were allowed these military weapons. It started in 2021 in result of the protests happening against police brutality. And while we do have a lot of police misconduct, we don't really have any violent protests happening for that would facilitate these weapons being necessitated. How can civilians lodge a complaint? You said that there haven't been any complaints. Where might one submit one of those?
If you go to our webpage, there is a military policy link, and you can email the police department at police@cityofukiah.com.
Okay, could you consider maybe linking that on the page? Because I looked thoroughly through that and couldn't find anywhere to submit a complaint or a comment.
Yeah, it's on our webpage.
Great. And then where's the funding coming from for the drones that are listed? And they're saying that's for the public works, the electric utility department. Who's paying for these drones and these weapons? Is it coming straight from the police budget?
I can't speak on the other departments. I know the police ones came from the police budget.
Yeah, the police department were part of our capital improvement plan that was approved by the city council in the budgetary process. And then the other two, the one for public works was purchased by Public Works and is used on a number of projects for Public Works. The electric one, which is of course is the more expensive one, is used primarily by the electric department for the evaluation of electrical distribution lines. That also has thermal capabilities, so it's able to detect hot spots in the electrical lines in order to preemptively detect problems with the distribution system, and so that the maintenance crews could, they perform regular maintenance and then we're able to identify any problems proactively. So, but as abundant of caution, I mean, they do provide and have been could be used by the police department. So out of an abundance of caution, they're listed on this policy to ensure that we're not in violation of that.
Okay, awesome. And my last question was, how much money does anybody know has been spent on de-escalation training that is not including these other weapons like pepper balls and bags?
As far as money goes, I couldn't tell you an amount of money, but I mean, our officers attend numerous de-escalation trainings throughout the year.
Okay, is there anywhere that we could get more information on that?
Yeah, you can email me or call me, and I can discuss that further with you.
Awesome. What's your email?
It is tcorning@cityofukiah.com.
Cool. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. So does council has any final thoughts on this or remarks? Go ahead, please.
I was interested in what the caller had to say about publicizing, and I don't know, I just leave it to you and making a decision, but I guess I just would recommend or suggest that if public, putting on a Facebook page and about what we're doing is a good idea, that, you go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I just.
I mean, when we did this, I did check with the city attorney's office. I believe, like I said, that the initial one needed 30 days. But in the future, I don't have an issue with, even though it's not a requirement, we could put it on our Facebook or on our, website and, allow everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I realize it could raise alarm unnecessarily, but on the other hand, the downside is people think we might be hiding something. So I don't know. I just thought the caller seemed to know a lot about this. I don't know, maybe it would be a fruitful conversation and maybe consider putting it on the Facebook page. I myself don't have an opinion about it either way. But anyway, I would move the recommended action that we receive the annual military. Did we already? Yeah. Do we want to move that we received it or just say receive it?
Yes, we'd like you to move that it's been received.
I move that we receive the annual, move that we have received the annual military equipment report.
Second.
I'm correct, that's the recommended action, correct?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your report.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Roll call, please do roll call. Roll call.
Councilmember Roden,